Okay. Hello. Sorry, can everybody hear me? Sorry, I need to know if you can hear me because the last time I couldn't hear anybody and you guys could not hear me. Hello, Official Crown. Hello, Anthony. Hello, I am following. Good morning. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me, guys? Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, good. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so good morning here, everybody. Good day wherever you are in the world. So today I just want you guys to ask me any questions when it comes to Canada immigration. So it's just going to be like a free, let's make it like a free consultation section. So ask me anything about, thank you, Anthony. Ask me anything from your requirement, from the procedure, from Dubai. Hi, just Gift Justin from Dubai. It's so nice to have you here. So yeah, I'm waiting for your question to come in. So as soon as your questions start coming in, then I will be answering them. Let's chat generally. So let's talk about everything from work permit, caregiver program, express entry program, provincial nominee under the express entry, the foreign worker program, the Greek program. Let's talk. Just ask me your questions, and I'm going to be here with you for just an hour. So let's maximize the time as much as we can. I'm still waiting for your questions. I haven't seen any question coming yet. Okay, so if anybody's not going to ask me a question, let me start. But it's just going to be like repeating myself. So let's talk about express entry. Let's talk about temporary work permits. Let's talk more about, if you do not meet the requirements for the express entry, what are your other options to come into Canada? I think that's where most people are stuck in. So express entry is just a system. So it's not actually a program on its own. It's just a system that accommodates 4 types of program under that system. So express entry will accommodate programs such as Federal Skilled Workers Program, Federal Skilled Trade Program, the Canadian Experience Class, and some part of the Provincial Nominee Program. So that's what the system does. So it's the express entry system that sorts out those programs under that system. What are the requirements for work permit, and does it require an English test? Not all jobs will require an English test, for as far as I'm concerned. But the most challenging part of work permit is, for you to get a work permit, you have to get a job first, which is the most challenging part. So work permit, you're just not applying into a general work permit application. So your work permit has to be, most part of the work permit, there are types of work permits. So for foreign national, meaning those people that are not in Canada already that needs a work permit, you need to get a job first. So that's the major challenge that you will have. And once you get the job, most likely it's going to be LMIA approved job. So LMIA means Labor Market Impact Assessment. So that means your employer has tried to find a qualified Canadian for that job, and they cannot find one. They decide to hire you to come do the job for them. So once your employer gets a positive LMIA, Labor Market Impact Assessment, then you take that LMIA, you take it to, you attach it with your work permit application, then you submit a work permit application. So that is it for work permit. There's the closed work permit. So there's another kind of work permit that comes with spousal. So for example, if your spouse actually have a work permit already, LMIA work permit, then not LMIA work permit, but if your spouse have a temporary resident permit such as study permit, or they have a postgraduate work permit, then you can actually apply for spousal work permit. It's an open work permit, so meaning that you don't need to get an employer to apply for that work permit, but your spouse must have sort of a kind of temporary resident permit in Canada to allow you do that. So does it require an English test? No. If it's just a general work permit or it's just a regular closed permit, no, you don't require an English test. But for the caregiver program, you do require an English test to submit your application. But the English test is not attached to your work permit. It's more for your permanent residence application that will be processed after you've gotten your work experience as a caregiver. So I'm not sure if that actually makes sense. So you're writing an English exam while you're submitting your work permit application under the caregiver program, but it is not part of the requirements for the work permit for the caregiver program. But just because we are applying for permanent residence upfront while you're applying for your caregiver program work permit, your caregiver work permit, then you are required to write the English test to submit it with your credential assessment to process your permanent residence application as soon as you have your 2 years work permit for the caregiver program. Are you able to answer your question, Gift Justin? So I'm going to go back to the system, the four program under the express entry system. So the Federal Skilled Workers Program, which a lot of I'm going to assume that 90% of my audience is from Nigeria. So apologies if that's not the case. So if you are not so most Nigerians will qualify under the Federal Skilled Workers Program. So meaning that you have worked in the Nigerian state. So remember, not all occupation will qualify. Thank you, Gift. Not all occupation will qualify under the Federal Skilled Workers Program. There are certain occupations actually, and the occupation has to fall under skill A, O, or B. I cannot emphasize this enough. So you have to do a bit of a research on your own. But I do find out that a lot of mistake that people do make is they take a job title and they don't break down the job title. So for example, an accountant and an accountant technician. Accountant technician is on the skill B level, while an accountant is on the skill A level, right? So you have to be very careful. You have to break down. That's why you have the knock. So if you do know what your job title is, or you know what your job description, actually that's the word, you know what your job description is, I strongly recommend you go look for the knock that will fit, if not 99%, but at least 90% of the knock that is provided by Canada. So when you go on Google, you just find the knock, or just put in your job title or search for the knock. It's much more easier than that on the website. So let's talk about the Provincial Nominee Program. That's where a lot of people come in and say, oh, I do not meet the point for the federal skill, I do not qualify, how can I go into the Provincial Nominee Program? So some of the provinces you can apply directly by submitting an EOI, which is the expression of interest into the province, and tell them, oh, I'm interested. Everything is still a point system, but the provinces will use 100 grade point system. So meaning your education, your age, your experience, everything is still going to give you the point. So you have to calculate your points. Most provinces will go with minimum of 67 points. Some provinces will go as high as 85 or 87. So it depends on the province you're submitting your EOI to. I will use EOI most times, but EOI means expression of interest. I will use ITA too. ITA means invitation to apply. So when you do submit your EOI to the province, they do just like the express entry system. They'll do a point grade, you get your point. If you do qualify, you get an ITA, invitation to apply for permanent residence. Then you submit your application. Then you submit your application for permanent residence. That's when the review. So when the province is nominating you, you get the nomination, and once you've been asked to apply for permanent residence, then that application leaves the province, goes to the federal stage, right? So there are 2 stages to it. As a fresh graduate with no work experience, what is the best option for me to migrate, live, and work in Canada? So to migrate permanently as a fresh graduate, I'm trying to be careful to answer this question very well. Most definitely you won't qualify for any of the programs under the express entry, because the express entry is mainly skilled. So you have to have a skill, you have to have an experience. Basically, that's what it means. So you won't qualify under that program, most likely. My best suggestion will be, try and see if you can come for another program in Canada. That would be my best suggestion. Or try and, as much as it is difficult to get a job in Canada, if you're not in Canada, people do get it. Or I do tell people, try and get a visiting visa. Come in, talk to employer yourself, and get a work and tell them to give you an employment. Then it will be a lot easier than you're changing your status from visitor's visa to work permit, right? So that would be an option for you. So come into Canada as a visitor, speak to an employer, because it's better for an employer to see you than looking at your resume. It's a lot much more easier and more reliable that way than you just submitting your resume and writing a cover letter. And sometimes the cover letter is not properly written, so it doesn't give you that chance. It's not saying that you're not qualified, but you're looking for a specific standard which you might not understand. But when you're talking to an employer one-on-one, and you have to be proactive in all those things. So when you're talking to a potential employer one-on-one, telling them what you have to offer, you have a better chance, right? So that would be one advantage or one way to go. Another route will be coming in for another program, either a postgraduate or a master's or something else. Then once you are in Canada, because after your school, you are entitled to a postgraduate work permit. So once you get the postgraduate work permit, you can actually build your work experience. That's very dicey. You have to be very careful because not all jobs will qualify for express entry during that time. So I strongly recommend that when that time comes, you make your findings and you do your research. Immigration keeps changing, so law keeps changing. So whatever I tell you now might not apply when it's time for you to apply for a work permit at that time. Yeah, so that would be your best two options: getting a job and coming to work, or coming to do another studies to give you another advantage to be here. But if you do not have a work experience, it's going to be a lot difficult for you to qualify for any of the programs under the express entry. I hope I'm able to answer your question, Aliyu. So back to the Provincial Nominee Program. So with a lot of provinces, to qualify mostly, you have to know somebody. You have to have a family member living in the province so that you can get the adaptability points. So if you want to get the adaptability points, you have to know somebody. Unlike the federal stage, which whereby you're limited to only have your sisters or your direct family members, the provinces is a bit more flexible. So even if you have your cousin, your uncles, you will still get the adaptability points. But that family member has to be a permanent resident in Canada or a Canadian citizen. So that's the clause. And I know I know a lot of I've seen a few clients having challenge with getting their family member to show proof that they've been in that province for at least a year. So anything like a bill, anything like employment payment or something like that, anything that can show that you're actually working in that province or that you've lived in that province will help ascertain that that person has been in that province and can get to the adaptability points to qualify for PNP of a particular province. What we would really love to work with you, ma'am, to know the best option for me, my fiancé and I. Okay, excuse me, Gift. Okay, Gift, sure, that I will be more than honored to work with you guys for sure. Let's talk after the after the live. Then we will see what options we can have for you. But I really want you to take advantage and ask me specific questions if you're comfortable with it. Because if I have to book you in for a section, then I have to charge you for consultation. So take advantage. Ask me questions if you're okay with it. Then I can ask you directly in here so that when I talk to you after the live, then I know what you're coming in for. Then you're probably signing a written agreement and we're going from there, rather than you having to book another consultation. The choice is yours anyways, but I just think this will work out more if you have a specific question you want to ask me. So let's go back to the Provincial Nominee Program. I'm trying to tell you what is going to increase your points to qualify for provinces if you do not meet the required points for the express entry federal skill program or federal trade skill program, and you're trying to submit an expression of interest EOI directly into a province. What is the possibility of getting a study permit after 10 years of degree program from Nigeria? Oh wow, okay. Okay, I know this will be a tough one, but it's possible. there's something called a study plan. So when you're writing or when you're submitting an application, it's possible, but at the same time, it's very dicey, especially from some certain countries. And it's no means of discrimination at all. It's just based on statistics. For instance, I'll talk more of for Nigerians, because most of my clients are from Nigeria, sorry. It's just that when Nigerians come in on a temporary resident visa, be it study permit or be it visitor's visa, they do not tend to go back. So they declare refugee and they try to claim refugee status, which has heavy financial impact on Canada. So for them to reduce that, it's been very difficult to get study permit, work permit, or any sort of temporary resident permit for people that have that cannot prove that they will go back to their home country. So now let's talk about if there's a 10-year gap since the last time you got your first degree. I would strongly recommend, if you're submitting a study permit application, do not go for a diploma program. Go for something higher than what you have before. Because at that point, when you're writing your study plan or your letter of explanation, you are explaining or you're stating the reason why you are going for your master's. So for example, if you have a degree in economics in Nigeria and you're coming for a postgraduate, and a postgraduate in Canada, I think that's where the mistake comes in for Nigerians, is it's not a postgraduate master's program. Most postgraduate program here in Canada is lower than a bachelor's. Right? So if you're coming for a postgraduate which is lower than a bachelor's and you already have a bachelor's, so that is a flag, and you already have a 10-year gap already in your studies. So you have to really convince that officer, saying that, okay, this education is genuine. The truth is 90% of the officers knows that you're using this as a means to migrate to Canada. So there's no point side cornering or trying to convince the officer. You have to be genuine on your own, right? So if you have a bachelor's, try to come for a master's. Or if you have a bachelor's in economics and you're coming for a bachelor's in engineering, so that's a completely change of career. So you have to be able to write a very convincing letter saying that, okay, I am changing my career. I do need, or is that there's an employment letter that is waiting for you, or somebody willing to hire you, saying that they need you to go get this qualification before they hire you. So stuff like that will help convince the officer, saying that, okay, yes, this education is genuine. So don't forget, these officers are just looking for people that, if they do not get their permanent residence, they know you're coming for the purpose to get a permanent residence, but you're looking for the fact that if you do not get this permanent residence, you are able to go back to your home country. So that's the clause. So if you do not qualify for this permanent residence after your program, are you able to go back to your home country? So if you put that in mind when you're submitting your application and you're trying to, not even trying, I strongly recommend that you're coming for a genuine purpose. I had somebody call me a few weeks ago and they do not have a clue. Somebody had told them that, oh, just get a visitor's visa. Your visitor's visa is going to be 2 years and you don't have to go back and you just stay in Canada. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You're jeopardizing your chances, especially if you have a good job in Nigeria, especially if you have a good career going for yourself. Because if you get that visitor's visa for 2 years, first of all, you're not even entitled to stay for 2 years. You're only allowed to stay for 6 months. So if you're staying for more than 6 months, you have to apply for a visitor's record. So you have to know that. So let's say, for example, you come in after 6 months, you apply for a visitor's record, you get a visitor's record, you're able to stay for 2 more years, and you declare refugee. You are jeopardizing your chances to ever become a permanent resident in Canada. I'm not saying it's not possible, but you have reduced that because, first of all, you have declared yourself not worthy to you're being fraud if they deem you that you don't need protection. And I don't know what story you want to tell Canada that they haven't heard. Are you gay, or they are trying to kill you, or one political opponent is after you, or there's so many stories that Nigerians have been trained that they do know. And trust me, there are Nigerian people on the panel. There are Nigerians on the panels as well. So you have to be very careful when you're cooking up those things. First of all, you're try to avoid a ban. Once you're banned in Canada, an officer will see you that you're lying. So now you have to go extra miles to prove yourself. So if you get a misrepresentation, you're banned in Canada, you're reducing your chances of becoming a permanent resident in Canada. So talk to people, talk to experienced agents, and be very careful. Like people will call me an agent. I'm not an agent. I'm a Canadian immigration consultant. I do have my license. I'm not an agent. So you really have to know the difference between an agent and an expert. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. If you have to pay heavily for it, pay heavily for it. And when somebody says you are not eligible, that doesn't mean that person doesn't know what they are telling you. Please, please, please ask them, what other options do you have, right? It might take another 5 years to make a very good plan for you to be able to come back and qualify, but take your time. Don't jeopardize your chances, please. If you have a study permit to get into Canada, you can't go to school for one reason or the other. Try and find a way to change that study permit to a work permit. And change that study permit to a work permit, rather than you not going to school and your study permit expires, or except you fall in love and you find somebody that's willing to sponsor you as a spouse, right? So that might be another option. So if you're very young, you have never been married, and you come to Canada, or you're divorced from your own country and you come to Canada and you find love, and yes, that person can sponsor you. Kudos, that's good. But don't come in here and whatever you submit 10 years ago, they have the system. They have it in their system. So you cannot change your first name, change your last name, and expect that you're working with people that do not know what they're doing. No, they have all this in their system. I know I might really sound harsh and unrealistic, but that's the truth. Oh, hi, Adiola. It's so nice to see you. So be very careful when you're submitting an application. Take your time. 1-2 years to really meet the eligibility is not a long time. It's not at all. If you do need to do another program, do another program. And the good news is Open University in Nigeria actually allows you, is recognized in Canada. So if you registered at Open University in Nigeria, do a 1-year program, diploma. It gives you more points. Or do a 2-year master's program, work at your own pace. It gives you more points to be eligible it gives you more points to be eligible for express entry. Right? So whatever you need to do an assessment, work with good companies. Don't work with general companies on internet that they will tell you to input your system, and the next thing you get a general email saying, oh, you are qualified, we need you to go pay so amount of money, and you pay another thing that makes me laugh is when when a company says, oh, pay 5,000 just because they are quoting you huge amount of money. Thank you, Chris. Just because they are quoting you huge amount of money doesn't mean that everybody's in for business, right? Very few people you will see that get into this for passion or for compassion. So you have to be very careful. Ask questions. Ask your agent questions. Verify your agent. Verify them. I strongly recommend that. An agent can ruin your life. They can. I've seen agents submit a fake bank statement, and now immigration is writing you saying, proof that this bank statement is genuine, or proof that this bank statement is yours, and you can't prove it. That is on your system. That is on your record. So the next time you're submitting an application, don't forget that they will go back to that. And if you've ever have a record with immigration, I strongly recommend request for a Gcms note. So a Gcms note is going to tell you what an officer has on you previously. So that will help your new representative or your new lawyer know what they have on your file before they proceed, rather than applying blindedly, right? Don't lie to whoever is helping you. Please do not lie. Do not lie. As soon as I see that you're lying to me, I'm going to drop you as a client, period. Because I'm not only protecting you, but I have to protect my reputation too. Because officers knows me. And now if I'm beginning to submit something that is not credible, it doesn't look well on me. So when I'm applying for people that are genuine, the officer actually looks at me and think that, okay, this person keeps submitting an document that are not credible, and my application is going to be ruined, or my chances are going to be ruined, right? So if I see that you're lying, it states there on my retainer agreement, do not lie to me. I do not like it. Do not lie to me. No matter how ugly the situation is, tell me the truth. If there's a way, we'll work it out. And I'll always do everything for you to work things out for you. Do you advise one to register with a professional body from Nigeria that one can work with? Yes, you can. But when you say a professional body, I'm very skeptical with Nigerians. And I'm sorry, please, because I have seen a lot. Don't get me wrong. If you have to verify that that person is registered, you have to. Even there are professional bodies that live in Canada in here, and there are people that live in Canada in here, and they register their business in Nigeria and employ people in Nigeria, and they are not registered. If anything ever happens to you, nobody's going to go after them. But if you work with a professional that is registered under ICCRC, if anything ever happens to you, my board will come after me, and you are kind of a little bit sort of protected, right? Because now I can go to my insurance and say, okay, I made a mistake on behalf of this client. Let's see a way we can fix it. Rather than you working with an agent or so-called professional in Nigeria that is not authorized, and they get you documents from wherever, I don't know. That's actually scary, because I see documents coming in from different places, and somebody will call me and say, so I want to come to Canada to visit. Am I going to supply a bank account? Where am I going to get a bank account to supply from? I can't. That's fraudulent. That's lying. I won't do that. So an agent that is supplying you documents, and I know you are desperate to come, and I honestly understand that. Trust me, I do. I have family members in Nigeria that I really want them to leave as much as I can, because I know that place sometimes is not conducive. But at the same time, take your time. Come in the right way. Please, 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 please. Your permanent residence can be revoked at any time. Until you become a Canadian citizen, they can still revoke your permanent residence if they do find anything fishy. That's the truth. Let me see. I hope I'm able to answer your question, Maureen. So if you do find a professional that you find that they do have the license, yes, please, I strongly recommend you work with them. And your professional doesn't even have to be in Nigeria. That's the good thing, right? We are in 2020. Technology everywhere. So you can work with a board that is in Canada. Most authorized or licensed people actually are based in Canada. We only have offices in Nigeria, so that people that do not believe us can actually walk into our office and see. And I really don't even know how you guys even believe that anyways, because I can create an office for you in Nigeria that is not even registered, right? And you just walk in there. The person there is somebody that I hired to tell you what to do. So be very careful. We are all Nigerians. We know anything is possible, but you have to be extremely, extremely careful. I've been in Canada 17 years, and I can tell you I have seen, it's just not, you don't want to ruin a lifetime chance. Basically, I'll tell you that. I've seen somebody close their entire life in Nigeria to come and seek refugee here in Canada, and it's not worth it. It's not. It's not. Do it the right ways. There are opportunities, even if it's not now. Work towards the future and try to make something work out for you. Okay, so I think I'm able to talk more on the Provincial Nominee Program, on your chances on increasing your points to get ITA from PNP, Provincial Nominee Program. Let me talk to you more about the Caregiver Program. Please, 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 please. I get email on a daily basis. Can you get me a job? I have a nanny experience. I can't get you a job. I am not authorized to get you a job. You have to register with nanny companies. And the Caregiver Program actually is family based. I can't stress this enough. So it has to be a family. Yes, it could be a company too, but is tinted towards those that, for one reason or the other, they do not meet the express entry qualification or requirements. Then you can actually look at that route, right? So even your friend can hire you, your sister can hire you, a family member can hire you. The most important thing about the caregiver is the genuineness of the job. That's what they're looking at. So Canada needs to make sure that that job is genuine. So you're not creating a job anyway. So the job has to be genuine. That's the most important thing about Caregiver Program. I cannot emphasize it enough. I do not have a job to offer you. I am not I do not work with any employment agency. I do not have any employment agency. I do not have any license to employ you. So you have to find your employer, unfortunately, and I'm sorry about that. So what are the benefits of having a Canadian child? Can one also get benefit living out of Canada? No, unfortunately. The benefit of having a Canadian child is your child becomes a Canadian citizen. That's just it. And there's been a bill that they've been trying to pass for a while now on how to stop that, because they do believe that people are taking advantage of it, coming to have your Canadian child, then you go back and your child is benefiting without you paying taxes into the system. So if you're going to have a Canadian child, It's not illegal. There's no law that says you cannot come and have your child in Canada. That I can tell you for sure. But what we do find out is a lot of people come in and they don't pay the medical bills. So it's unethical. If you know you're not going to be able to afford it, the average fee for natural delivery is between 9,000 to 11,000. As at the last time I checked. So if you know you're not going to pay the fee, I strongly recommend don't do it. That's one of the greatest challenges they are having, because you're going to ruin the chances for people that are planning on coming to have their child and they do have the money. So if you don't have the money, don't come, because of the good news about Canada is they won't bill you up front, not all of it, so they will bill you later on. And so if you know you're not going to pay, I strongly, please, I'm begging you, don't ruin it for people that are coming legitimately. Don't find the money. 11,000. Come in. Canada is a good place. They have an amazing health system. So if you feel that you have complications, or you've been trying to have a child for a while and you want to have a safe delivery, then yeah, you can come in and have your child in Canada. Your child is going to become a Canadian citizen. But the benefits that because there are child benefits that the Canadian government pay parents that do have Canadian children, you will not be eligible for that because the parent has to be a Canadian. And I think that is fair enough if you look at it from our angle, because the parents are paying taxes into the system. So that's a kind of a payback, saying that you're enjoying the benefits of the tax you're paying into the system. So until you become a permanent resident, you will not be able to get all those child benefits for your Canadian born child. But your child gets to come to school for free, and when your child is 18, there's a possibility that your child can actually sponsor you to become a Canadian permanent resident too in the long run. So I hope I'm able to answer your question, Adiola. Getting an employer is a big deal. However, do you know any nanny company? Okay, yes, it's a big deal. And nanny company, and I think I posted some on my last video on the Caregiver Program. Like I said, I do not work for any of them. A lot of them will contact us based on what we do. So I'm not giving any company any credit, please. So I'm not sure how genuine they are. So even if you watch my Caregiver Program and you see a list of companies that I have listed, I do not know how genuine they are. I do not know anything about their credibility. Please, I'm putting that out up straight. But strongly, even before you go for a nanny company, I recommend you find a family member or a friend who can hire you first. Because a nanny company is going to they are going to have to charge you if they are registered. They are authorized to charge you, so they have to charge you. But there are quite a few of them. Just go on Google. I really wish you guys would use Google very well. Use Google nanny jobs in Canada or nanny companies in Canada. Indeed, post your job in Indeed. Use Indeed Canada. So it has to be Indeed.ca. Don't go to Indeed.com. Use Indeed.ca. Job banks. So that's okay. Let me give you a secret. For those of you that are looking for a job, so before a foreigner can hire you, even when you have a friend that has a company that is willing to hire you, remember they will tell you one thing: go and apply for the job on certain websites. So I strongly recommend the website that government required most employers to register their jobs on before they can hire anybody. Indeed, Job Banks Canada. There are local ones too, which is Kijiji. I'm not sure if Monster is part of it, but for sure, Indeed, Kijiji, and Job Banks. So if you can register yourself or apply on those three websites, unfortunately, Kijiji is provinces wide, so I think you have to select a province. So look for a province in which you're interested in, and look for a city in which you're interested in. Then apply into them locally. Then you might get a chance. Trust me. I've seen people come into Canada without knowing anybody, and they do get their jobs. Just don't relent. You have to be proactive. You have to be persistent. Proactive, persistent. I can't emphasize on those two words. You just have to keep going. Don't give up. If it is your dream, I believe one thing. I keep saying it. The only thing you cannot achieve in life is what you don't want and what God doesn't want you to have. Those are the only two things you cannot achieve in life. So don't ever give up on the dream of coming to Canada. I'm very passionate about Canadian immigration because one, the country is a good country. Then two, is an opportunity, right? If 10 of us can go back to Nigeria, and I'm hopeful that we'll make Nigeria great one day and people don't have to leave, right? Let me see the question. Get an okay. I think I did answer your question. Happy kids. How can one get to Canada without IELTS? So when you're talking of coming to Canada permanently without IELTS, it's not possible. And it's not only Nigerians. I see people saying that, oh, Nigeria is an English-speaking country, and why are we required to write IELTS? Even if you hold a British passport, you still have to write the IELTS exam. It is mandatory. There's nothing anyone can do about that. As long as you're coming into Canada permanently, remember I said permanently, it is mandatory. Even if you come into Canada as a student or as a worker and you did not write IELTS up front, you still have to write it when you are applying for permanent residence eventually. I'm not sure if you still have to write it. I think you have to go to school to take an English course for you not to write it. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But as far as I do know, you still have to write the IELTS exam. It is mandatory for you before you become a Canadian permanent resident in Canada. I think I did answer your question. Okay, so if you have any other question, like I said, this is just the question and answer section. Ask me any of your questions and I will be more than happy to answer you. Anything out of this scenario, unfortunately, I have to charge you. So this is the opportunity of giving you free consultation. Consultation is 150 an hour Canadian dollars or 40,000 naira. So okay, thanks, that's helpful. Okay, good to know. I'm trying to see what other area that people do ask me a lot of questions about. Work permit, caregiver program, and the new program, the Agric pilot program. Yes, the Agric pilot program is not as easy as it sounds. So it requires you to have experience in Agric sector. I do have a slide that I did on that actually. So I'm not sure if I've posted it or not, but I think check my YouTube. It should be on my YouTube. I should have it in there. That so there are jobs that you're being required to have employment, to have experience in, and you have to find an employer in Canada, unfortunately. But but the Agric sector part, I will tell you for sure, the industry need people. So if you can find an employer, and most times people in Canada don't want to do the job. So over 50% of people that are employed in the Agric sectors are foreign national, right? So that sector is a place, if you do have the experience, that you can actually explore. And like I said, I keep repeating myself, like I said, but always go and apply on Indeed.ca, Job Banks, Canada, or find a local city, Kijiji, to apply for. You will then repackage your resume. Look at how Canadian resume has to be written. Excuse me. Attend resume sections. Write I don't care what job you're applying for. Write a good cover letter. Because that is how you are selling yourself. The person hiring you does not know anything about you. Your resume will only tell them about your work experience. But a cover letter is an introduction of yourself into this employer. This is who I am. This is where I have worked. This is what my previous employer thinks about me. So you're selling yourself. Is like an interview without being interviewed, right? So write a very good cover letter. I strongly recommend have somebody else look into your cover letter. Have somebody else look into your resume. Organize your resume in such a way that is easy for an employer to go through. Trust me, HR have series of resumes that they go through every day. So when they go through our resume and they see that, sometimes I've worked as an HR person before, and I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to spend more than 2 minutes. The maximum I will spend on a resume is 2 minutes. And that resume, that's my second time looking at that resume. That's why I'm spending 2 minutes on that resume. So when I look at resume, the first thing is I want to be able to see that, okay, your employment is properly highlighted, your job description is properly explained. I want to see the years, I want to see the skills you have. So once I see that, I set it aside for a secondary view. Right, so on my secondary view, now I'm thoroughly looking at your cover letter. Am I able to see what you want? Can I work with this person? Does this person fit into my team? And stuffs like that. So you have to So you have to look into all. So those are the things you have to really look into to submit a resume. Don't just do copy and paste. If you're applying for a Greek, sometimes there was a time I was hiring and I see a resume. You're applying for a position and your experience is not even saying anything about the position. So how do you expect me to hire you? Or your cover letter is not saying anything about the position. How do you want me to hire you? So take your time, take your time, take your time. Don't be in a hurry, please. Okay, that's helpful. High ELTS is paramount for permanent residents. Yes, it is. Can I get a work visa to Canada with an O-level certificate due to delay in my university certificate? Don't know if I can apply for work visa with my NECO result as I've got no skills yet. Okay, Gift, I have talked about this before in terms of work visa. Actually, there's nothing like a work visa, it's a work permit. So you're coming under a temporary resident visa, work permit. And for you to get a work permit, you need to get a job. And if you're looking for a job, O-level, so every job has its own requirement. So if you go on Indeed, I'm very familiar with Indeed and job banks. So if you go on Indeed, when an employer posts a job, so you see what you're looking for, requirements, what you must have, your experience. So if you do have that, so for example, if I want to hire, let's say I want to hire a truck driver. So the employer will post in there and say, okay, for a truck driver, you have to have this kind of license. You have to have maybe what's it called? High school diploma, which is WAEC. So you will see the requirements in there. So it's that requirements that would determine. So a lot of people keep mixing work permit and migrating to Canada. So they are two different sectors. So that's why when you come to me and you say, can I get you a job? No, I can't get you a job because that's the labor sector. I only deal with the immigration sector. So when you're looking for a job, you're dealing with the labor sector. You're not, it has nothing to do with immigration. So when you're switching from work permit into permanent residence, then you're leaving the labor temporarily to tap into permanent residence into the federal part. Right. So you have to, those are the things you really need to understand. So applying for work permits, you have to get a job. Basically, there's no two ways about it. You really have to get a job, except you are in Canada already, or except you have a postgraduate. You're just finishing your postgraduate studies and you are applying for a postgraduate work permit, or you have a spouse in Canada on a temporary resident visa and you are applying for a spousal work permit. Other than that, you have to get a job first before you can apply for a work permit. Gift. I hope I'm able to answer your question, Gift. So basically, you can apply as long as the job you're applying for, that's what the requirement is. Yes, you can apply for work, but you can apply for a work permit until you get a work offer or letter offer. And the job offer has to have LMIA. Can I have WhatsApp contact? Yes, my WhatsApp contact number is the same as the phone number, but it's a landline. So if you send a text message, it won't come in. So you have to send in, but it's registered for WhatsApp. So send me a message on it. It's 780-669-1598. 780-669-1598. So Gift, like I was saying, so the job offer has to be LMIA approved, like I mentioned before. So that's labor market impact assessment. So that means that the employer tried to get an employee in Canada, but they could not find an employee, so they decide to hire you as a foreign national. So that has to be approved by another department, which is the ESDC. So once that is approved, you take that approved LMIA, then you use it to apply for work permit. So I hope I answered your question, Gift. Chris, yes, I gave you my WhatsApp contact. Adiola, what about VSC offices? When are they opening up? I have someone waiting on study permit for September. VSA offices, I'm not sure, but they are working on something ASAP. So that's why it's better you submit your application online. So if that person already has a biometrics, so your application should be processed. It shouldn't be delayed. What a lot of people are waiting for, I do have a couple of clients too that I am waiting for the application to be processed. And the only thing delaying us is just the biometrics. We're waiting for the biometric center to be open so that they can go have their biometrics done and they can submit, the application can continue processing. So, if your application is being processed online, you shouldn't be waiting, except you're waiting for your fingerprints to be taken or your biometrics to be done. You should be okay. But one thing I need you to know for sure is no visas are being issued. right now. So if your study permit get approved, I did a post on it on my Instagram page. So if your study permit is being approved, they've set it aside in such a way that you have to take your program from your home country. So for example, if you're in Nigeria, so you have to do your online program for at most 1 year. Depending on when the travel ban is being lifted, till you can come into Canada. So for now, as far as I'm concerned, as of this morning, no visa is being issued for people that are out of the country. So if you're still waiting, if you're going to get an approval, it will tell you have been approved, but you're most likely going to continue your study online. Then your visa will be issued as soon as the travel ban is being lifted for you to come into Canada. Good news is it will not affect your postgraduate work permit, provided that you're taking your programs online. So that's the good news. I hope I'm able to answer your question, Adiola. Let me see. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's all for today. I'm not sure if any of you have any other question. You can send me an email, but like I won't respond to LOI messages. I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not send me LO and expect me to say hi. Please, send me the message. Tell me, state your cause, state why you're contacting me, then I will respond. But if you're saying hello, you will never get an hi back from me, unfortunately. I'm not being rude, it's just time consuming. Hello, how is the family? No, I don't have that time, please. And if you're asking me a specific question, any question that I can answer you in less than 2 minutes, I will answer. But any questions such as what are my chances of coming into Canada, or what options do I have, that's going to take me at least 15 to 30 minutes to answer that question. I recommend you book a consultation, and it has to be a paid consultation before I can answer that question. I strongly recommend to people, go on www.cic.gc.ca. You will get most of the information in there. At that point, it's a lot easier to come to me and say, okay, I have looked into this. These are the options that are there. This is the one that I think that will fit me. But how can you advise me to go? Then I can answer that specific question, right? It's a lot easier. It's saving you money. It's saving me time. What is the best option for my fiancé and I to enter Canada? Because we're hiring going to visit visa anymore due to complications. Okay, Gift, I'm not sure I understand what your question is. What are the best options for my fiancé and I to enter Canada? Because I'm not sure. Which province do you feel is suitable to work? It depends on your qualification. It depends on your work experience. Basically, it depends on your qualification. So Alberta, for example, Alberta is like the Port Harcourt of Nigeria. So if you are an engineer, if you're into oil and gas, then I will say, okay, look into Alberta, and Saskatchewan, most part of Saskatchewan. But if you're into industrial companies, accounting, or corporate settings, I would probably say look more into Ontario, right? So it depends on what your experience is. Yeah. So every provinces have their own challenges and they have their own strength. So it depends on what you're really looking for. But in terms of economy that is booming, Alberta was once upon a time booming. I can speak much for Alberta because I live in Alberta. But I do know when it comes to industrial work, Ontario will be better. So caregiving, precisely. So caregiving, any province is okay. So in terms of caregiving, everybody needs a caregiver one way or the other. And why most people cannot put their kids in daycare is because daycare usually runs from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. And some people are actually working nights. So for example, nurses that have night shift, doctors, or people that cannot that do not have jobs that work around that time, they do need caregiver to take care of their children in the evening time. So that's why so any province will work for caregiver. But in terms of the pay for caregiver, each provinces have their own minimum wage, and by law an employer has to pay you minimum wage. I hear somebody say that, I see people paying $20 an hour for caregiver, so I'm entitled to $20 an hour for a caregiver job. Nope. because the caregiver job you're seeing online that people are making $20-25 is a different one. So they are for people with special kids or people that actually have a certificate or a special certificate or a degree in caregiver. Those are the people that will get $20-25 an hour. So for caregiver job, precisely for this program, you're going to be getting minimum wage, which in Alberta, I think it's about $13 or $15 there about an hour. So don't get mad at the employer when your employer says they are not going to pay you $20 an hour, because nobody will pay you $20 an hour for a caregiver job, right? Except if they have a child that is that has special needs, whereby the government is actually paying them to pay you that amount. Please, what is the website again? CIC, I didn't get the last. Oh, sorry. So it is www.cic.gc.ca. www.cic.gc.ca. Please, what's your email address? So the email address is info@moreimmigrationsolutions.com. info@moreimmigrationsolutions.com. Solutions with an S, right? I am 39, an early years educator. I have been in the pool for 3 years. You can't be in the pool for 3 years. Please, what options can I explore? Okay, so you can't be in the pool for 3 years. I think your profile expires after 1 year. So I'm not sure where that is coming from. But 39, early year educator. So this is very basic information that you are giving me. But just based on the age alone, I can tell you it's going to be very difficult for you to qualify under the Federal Skilled Workers Program. So your best option will be going through the Provincial Nominee Program, right? And still, most part of Provincial Nominee, even if you're applying directly into the province, I strongly recommend you still stay in the pool, because some provinces will actually go into the pool and select you. So whatever your education is, if you have a BSc, I strongly recommend upgrade. Whatever your high ELT is, at this point, at 39, you have to do the best to get the highest in high ELTS for you to get desired points, right? So your education, those are the things you can work on. Your education and your high ELTS can still boost you. Yes, 39 is a bit tight, yes, but those two things can give you an added advantage for Provincial Nominee Program. Depending on what your qualification is in terms of education, you can look into the occupation in demand for Saskatchewan, right? That might be another sector that you want to explore, because if your qualification and your education actually align together, then you might qualify for the occupation in demand in Saskatchewan stream. I hope I'm able to answer that question. For gift, I'm asking what is the best option for us, because we wanted to apply for visit visa, but from the look and crown of everything, a visit visa is not advisable for us to enter Canada and settle. You are definitely right. So do not come in for visiting visa and you plan to settle, because your option will probably be just declaring refugee if you're not running away from anything. And I do understand that there are people that are actually running away for genuine cause. So if you're running away for genuine cause, by all means, please seek for refugees, seek for help, seek for protection. They will hear your case, but just make sure that you get the right lawyer, right? Don't go for we all know whatever is free, you won't get the best out of it. I strongly recommend you go for a good lawyer. You pay the money out of it, because if you're running from something, you're running for your life, then you really want to pay for it, right? So by all necessarily means, if you feel your life is threatened, if you feel that you need Canada to protect you, by all means declare refugee and get it. Okay. But if you're coming through US, you have to know the law. So if you're coming through US, you have to seek refugee first in US before you can actually seek refugee in Canada. So I see a lot of people coming through US and they come back through Canada and declare refugee. That's going to be a disaster. Yes, you have the opportunity to work for a couple of years before you're being figured out. Except in very rare cases, but just know what you're getting into before you get into it, right? Talk to people, talk to a lawyer, pay for consultation, pay, because when you pay, then you're getting the right information. And when I say pay, you don't have to really come to me, but if you have somebody that actually knows the knowledge, an expert that knows it, please, by all means, pay and get the right information, please. Because that's what happened. Now you come in, you're stranded, you don't know what to do, and your life is technically ruined. You don't want that to happen to you, right? And I know a lot of people in Canada will tell you, oh, they are lying to you. I came in through this means, I came in through that means. And I'm not saying they are lying, but people will not tell you the 100% the truth of how they actually got their papers. And a lot of people still don't have their papers, but they don't really want you to know, right? So you have to be very, very careful when you're making such decisions. So back to you, Gift. What will be your options? You have O levels. You didn't have a work experience. I'll strongly tell you that you come for an education, further your education. And if it is either you or your fiance, one of you should further your education, and the other person applies for an open work permit, although you won't qualify for an open work permit because you guys are just in a relationship, except you want to claim common law, which I don't know how that will work because Nigeria is not recognized as a common law country, but it is doable. But that will be something else you have to talk about. That will be a probably not complicated, but there are ways to go about it if you guys don't want to get married. But if you guys can get married, I strongly recommend get married. It will be a lot easier to submit an application as a couple than submit an application as a fiance. Yeah. And the cost of studying in Canada is not really encouraging. So there's other ways. Okay, so you're looking at the cost. So if you don't want to come study in Canada, what would be your option? So the other options would be try and get a job or work for a couple of years and get a higher education online to increase your points. And after a couple of years, then you can apply for federal skill worker. You can apply under the Express Entry program system. That's the best I can do. And I know it sounds really discouraging, but if you don't want to come in as a student because of the fee, then is either you find an employer who is willing to hire you or you just improve your skills, unfortunately. But without work experience, it's going to be definitely difficult or nearly impossible to migrate to Canada. Because the truth that you really need to know is Canada is stealing skilled people because they are trying to build their own economy. So they need that skill, they need that money. So if you don't have the money, you don't have the skill, it's going to be quite challenging, or it's going to be a struggle to migrate to Canada. I didn't say impossible, but it's just going to be a bit tricky and a bit kind of a struggle. So yes, I think we have made it today. Thank you all for joining, and I hope I'm able to answer most of your questions. Like I said, if you have a specific question, contact me. I will answer you. But if you have a general question or a question that's going to take me more than 15 minutes to answer, I strongly recommend visit the Canadian website or you book a consultation section. Then I can give you all the attention paid for to answer your question. You're paying for my time and you're paying for my knowledge, right? Remember, I didn't get the license for free. I went to school for it, and I still have to upgrade myself every time, and I do pay for that as well. So I wish everybody good luck. However I can help you, let me know. I will do my best to make your dream come true. I got a work permit that I'm super proud of last week actually, and the work permit was deemed impossible, but just to tell you how I will go extra miles for you. If I see that there's a chance, I will go that extra miles for you. But when I tell you I'm none, this is the full stop, I need you to understand that I see that there is no chance in there. I'm not going to keep submitting an application whereby I see that the likelihood of getting it is wrong. But I'll tell you what to do or what other options you have to, or what you can do next if I feel that the road is blocked on my hand, right? So can I include my work experience that I own a school? So you own a school is actually not a work experience. So it's more like entrepreneurship. So that would be on another route. But if you want to say that you are the proprietor or so you are the manager of that school or the director of that school, then that would be an experience rather than say you own a school. So if you say you own a school, that's an investment. So you are an entrepreneur, right? But if you want to claim the experience out of it, so you can say you've been managing a school. So you are the manager of XYZ primary school, or you are the manager or the director of XYZ high school, then that will count as a work experience for you. It is so refreshing listening to you. Thank you for all the answers. I'm very glad, Adiola. I'm very glad I'm able to help. Maureen, thanks for your time and all the information. Thank you very much, Maureen, for joining. I am happy I'm able to help everybody. Thank you for all your answers. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And I know a lot of you keep saying I do not respond to emails. I do not respond to. I'm trying to, but like I said, I wouldn't respond to hello hi. That's the most that I get in my WhatsApp. I really will not respond to hello hi. Go straight to the point. If I can answer, I will let you know. And you will always get an auto response from my WhatsApp. If it's a direct question, ignore it. I will answer. And if I don't answer you in 48 hours, just send me a question mark and I'll try to catch up on it. Thank you very much, guys, and I will see you next time. What are my chances of applying for a master's at 39? I'm a bit scared. Oh, 39 is a fair age to apply for a master's. You just need to create a study plan. I'm not sure why this is telling me I have 13 seconds, but it's going to go off maybe in 30 seconds, in 11 seconds maybe. But yeah, you can. Let's talk after the program. After the live, you just have to create a good reason of why you're coming for master's after 39.